When we were young, we read more often because we had to. It was the only way for us to get knowledge and to be enlightened. Read to your heart's delight and be enlightened. Let's just read. It's a podcast by Andy's Personal Development. Stay tuned for more reading and enlightenment. And welcome to this edition of Let's Just Read. I greet you with a heart of hopeful thanksgiving unto the Creator, and also thank you for being continuously supportive of this podcast among the three that we produce on Andy's Personal Development. Our watchwords are read for enlightenment and for knowledge. And we have a very special guest that we'd love to share with you today. Her name is Corinne Auman, and she is an author, educator, family caregiving, and aging expert. She's also the founder of Choice Care Navigators. This is a company dedicated to helping families navigate the aging process. And she is dedicated to fostering personal growth, resilience, and authentic living at every age. She has written a book entitled Teenagers, and we'll get into the substance of that book in a moment. But without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Corinne Auman, live on Let's Just Read. Welcome, Corinne.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for taking the time to be with us. We appreciate it and we appreciate you. So, Corinne, if you can, in maybe a minute or so, tell us about your background, where you grew up, where you came from, as much as you can remember, because the early stages of your life, maybe up to age 7, would have set the foundation for virtually the individual that you have become today. And I know that you have personally made some distinctions about your life that have caused you to achieve some level of success. But as far back as you can remember, what's the foundational years of your life like? What were they as far as you can remember?
Sure. So, and actually, they really do tie into everything I do now. Um, we I grew up in North Carolina. I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina now, and I grew up about 20 minutes south of here near Asheboro. And we lived right next door to my mom's parents, my grandparents, and that experience of having them right next door and a enormous part of my life. I mean, I could literally, walk across a field and be at their house all the time, every day, and had a really important relationship with them, which then has morphed into everything I do with working with older adults now and looking for it trying to help people think about looking forward to growing older because of that relationship I had with them. I watched my grandparents, every day do all these things in their lives, and then also watched as their health did decline. And my mom and her sister had to start helping and doing things and taking over those caregiving roles. And that is exactly why I have ended up in the care management business that I'm in today. I'm helping other families navigate those same processes and figure out, how do we pay for this? What are our options? How do we provide our loved ones with the very best aging experience that they can have? And then also, how do we think about planning and preparing and having our own very best aging experience that we could possibly have? And so, yeah, those early years really did impact a tremendous amount of what I do today.
Thank you for sharing, Corinne. Would you say that someone can now adopt certain measures, principles, policies, if you can name them that, that would actually help them to not control, but better manage and guide the aging process?
Oh, absolutely. So, one of the things that is really is so important for people to understand is that how you view your own aging matters tremendously for how you actually age. So there's a researcher up at the Yale School of Public Health by the name of Dr. Becca Levy, and she has shown that your positive attitude about aging, positive aging beliefs impact your aging outcomes in a multitude of different ways. For one thing, people who have a positive aging outlook live on average 7.5 years longer than people who have a negative aging outlook. And you can imagine why that is, right? Like if I have a positive outlook, I'm trying to take care of myself. I'm going to the doctor. I'm doing lots of things to help myself age well. But it also matters in terms of how fast you're going to recover from an injury. People who have a serious injury recover faster if they have positive aging beliefs than people who don't. And so there's all these different ways that how you look at your own aging shapes how you actually experience that journey.
Great, wonderful. So we are looking there at the mental aspect, the mindset, which is, of course, absolutely important and critical in terms of how your body responds and the energy that you put out into the atmosphere, the community in which you reside, the people that you mingle with on a social basis. But aside from that, what are other practical means, things that they can physically do? You said eat well, exercise well, sleep well. But are there other modules of things that they can actually do? Maybe get themselves involved in playing bingo or bridge, be involved in a club that does community development work. I don't know. You are the expert. Tell us, is there more that they can actually do to come together with that mental aspect and therefore have a kind of holistic approach to the aging process?
Sure. So we do a great job when we think about aging and preparing for what I'll call the retirement years, and I'm putting that in quotes. Then we do a really good job of thinking about, okay, I'm going to need this amount of money, and I need to do retirement planning for the financial piece. The thing that we don't do a great job of is thinking about the emotional and social aspects of aging and those retirement years. And those are tremendously important. So when people retire and they leave their workplace, they're not only leaving the job and the financial income that brought, right? They're also leaving all their work friends, all the socialization that they got through that employment, all of the emotional support or sometimes stress, but all those connections. And so when people retire, their social world actually shrinks pretty significantly for a while, and they have to take actual steps to make sure that they don't become socially isolated. So like one of the worst things you can do as you grow older is retire and then do nothing but leisure activities, right? Like golf and all, and whatever your favorite leisure activity sounds really fun. But when that's all you have to do every single day, it actually kind of gets boring. Um, or retire and then become a couch potato, right? Watch a lot of
Ah,
television, that sort of thing. That is terrible for you. So
yes.
as people move through that transition, it is really important that they try to figure out, what is my purpose
Uh huh.
going to be now? So we wanted actionable steps, thinking about when I retire or when as I grow older, what am I going to do every day that's going to make me want to get out of bed, that's going to give my life meaning and motivate me to get up and get going? Because we need that. As human
Yes.
beings,
Yeah.
we need purpose. We need to feel needed by other people.
Yeah.
And so once you retire, you have to figure that out for yourself, because now maybe you don't have to go to a job every day, but you still want to feel needed by other people. You don't want to feel like nobody cares whether or not you woke up that morning, right? So those are the pieces, and it can be anything. So a number of people that I've interviewed, they're volunteering full time. Maybe they've gone back to work, right? And it's not necessarily for the money, but it's for the engagement and the feel like I've got something to get up and do every day.
Yeah.
There's lots of different things you can do, but those social and emotional pieces, the purpose, all of that really matters as much, if not more, than your financial planning for growing older.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. You make it so clear and so concise. Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Corinne. So, when I look at the information, it says that you're on a mission to change the conversation around aging in a culture where many avoid thinking about older adulthood until the last minute. So, here's the thing, Corinne. How much of an impact have you been able to make, and a positive one and an endearing one, on people that are challenged with that similar kind of culture? And what are the challenges that you're facing as a result?
Well, so I think you change this conversation around aging one person at a time, because we are in a very, very anti-aging culture, right?
Right.
The anti-aging industry is a multi-trillion dollar industry, and its
Wow.
entire purpose
Uh huh.
is to make money off of your fear of growing older, right?
Okay.
And we do all have that fear because we've grown up in this culture that has told us growing older is terrible and it is to be avoided at all costs. But the
Hmm.
thing is, we are all aging, right? We are going to be older at the end of this podcast than we were at the beginning. This is
Yes.
not something just old people do.
Right.
So there's that. The other thing about it is, if you are fearing growing older, part of that is because you know how older people are viewed and you know how older people are treated. And you don't want to be perceived as old because you don't want to be viewed or treated the way they are. So it's kind of, we kind of
Hmm.
other older adults and say it's like an us versus them,
Yeah.
as if that's not going to be us in the future. So I think it is vitally important that people of all ages care about how we view aging and how we view older adults, because this is a set of stereotypes, a set of discriminations that if you live long enough, it's going to apply to you. So there's no getting away from it. So I really, my goal is to take the idea, we've made aging the villain. It's this
Hmm.
evil thing and it's this thing to
Yeah.
avoid. And
Yeah.
instead, I really want to take it and say, no, aging is the hero, because we're all going to have it happen, and it's a journey that we are privileged to get to experience, right? Because the alternative is to not age, and that means we aren't here anymore. And so, how do we change people's views from it is this terrible, evil thing to going, no, there is a lot to look forward to. There's a lot we gain as we get older in terms of knowledge and wisdom and life experience and social interaction skills. There are so many positives that we just kind of discard or poo poo because we're all just so worried about whether or not we've got a gray hair or a wrinkle kind of thing. And um it's not the way it should be, right? It's
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
way we should view this
Yeah.
really amazing journey that we're all on.
Yeah. And as you're speaking, the immediately what comes to my mind is a sort of cliche thing that we say. It's time to age gracefully.
Mm. Hmm.
Uh, but and I mean, we could adopt that particular principle. We could adopt that attitude mentally and otherwise, and it's probably gonna help.
I also,
Bearing in mind. Yes, go ahead, Corinne.
I was going to say, I also, you also hear the words age, you're going to age successfully. And I'm
Right.
like, if you're still alive, you are aging successfully.
Yes.
You've done it. You've done
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Success.
I get it because I think when we look at the term aging, we usually think about above 50 going on to 60 and above, and we don't realize that from the moment we were born, we started to age.
Hmm. Hmm.
Wow. I
Yeah,
love that.
we call it growing up
Uh huh.
until you become a an adult, whatever that
Yes.
means, and then
Yes.
after that, then we call it aging. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
aging all the way through.
All the way through. Yes, definitely. Great. So you are the founder of Choice Care Navigators. Tell us, Corinne, when did you find this company? And secondly, how did you come up with the name? I love it.
Well, so as I was telling you in the beginning, we lived right next door to my grandparents,
Yeah.
and my grandfather passed away fairly suddenly,
Mm,
and then my mom and her sister had to take over caring for my grandmother at the time, who had dementia, but they didn't realize like how bad it was because
yeah.
my grandfather had really been protecting her and taking care of
Mm,
her.
mm-hmm.
So suddenly they went from they had two parents who both lived at home independently to they had one parent who needed 24-hour supervision. And
Wow.
so watching them, that happened when I was in maybe 8th grade. And watching them over the years, my grandmother passed away when I was a junior in college. Um, Watching them go through that caregiving experience, seeing them make mistakes along the way in terms of, choice of facility or different things or things that they just didn't, they looked back on and went, oh, I'm not sure that was a great idea. Then I thought there has to be somebody who helps you with this, right? Like,
Yeah.
why isn't there someone who helps you make decisions, who helps you
Mm-hmm.
figure these things out?
Yeah.
And people think that it's like the social worker at the hospital, like the discharge planner, and that discharge planner is doing her best, his or her best, to help get you out of the hospital. But that is their goal. Their goal is to get you out of the hospital. It's not their main concern to figure out your finances or what is the right fit place or how do you get home care at home and arranging those sorts of things. So, anyway, I had said all along there should be somebody who helps you with this stuff. And back in 2012, I finally looked at my husband and said, if I'm ever going to start that business where we help people navigate these kinds of things, I should do it now. It's only gotten more complex in the time since my grandmother passed away. There are more options for seniors now. And so I started the business and back in 2012. And so now we've been in business 12 years. And we're geriatric care managers is the term, but our professional organization likes for us to be called aging life care managers,
Mm-hmm.
which is a great word, but a lot of times people don't exactly know what that means.
All right.
But the we are literally helping people navigate how to figure out caring for those aging parents. So that's where the choice care navigators comes from. We help people as they're coming out of the hospital, figure out all the stuff they need to care for an aging loved one at home, be that home care, equipment. Do we need to modify the house? All those kinds of things. If they're trying to move somewhere else, we might help them figure out what facilities they can afford, who offers the right kind of care. I joke that we're a part time therapist because a lot of adult children come and just kind of unload on us in terms of, you know, all the things they're going through with their parents that they don't feel like anybody else necessarily understands because this
Yes.
isn't this caregiving journey that so many adults are on now as we've continued to live longer and longer. It's not something we openly talk about a lot. We don't necessarily go around saying, here's all the things I'm going through as I try to care for my mom. And here's all the stresses I'm having. And so a lot of times people will come to us because they know that we get it. And so they just unload all of the things that are happening. And we do get it. We do get it. We're a safe space to say, my mom's driving me crazy. Or my mom has dementia and I don't know what to do. And she's not who she used to be. And it's super frustrating. Those kinds of
Wow.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. So, Corinne, I'm just going to show something to you here.
Mm.
This is the book, of course.
Hmm.
And I am curious about the title, Keen Ages,
Sure.
telling a new story about aging. How did you come up with the term and the cover? Is that an owl on a branch?
Yeah, it's an owl, and I like that he's got his little head to the side because it's like he's
Yes.
inquisitive, right? Like, what's
Yes.
happening
Yes.
here? This is different. This
Uh-huh.
is this is new. And so when we talk about growing older, the there are very few positive words to describe older adults. We can say
Hmm.
older adults, we can say elders, we can say elderly, we can say seniors. But if you talk to very many older adults, they don't love those words because most of them have a negative connotation to them.
Okay.
And so I was trying to come up with a word that to describe older adults who are healthy, or I'm going to put healthy in quotes because everybody has health issues as we grow
Right.
older. That's not going to be completely avoided, but who
Yes.
are active and engaged, living purposeful lives. Despite any sort of health issues or despite any sort of age related issues. And so I couldn't come up with a word. And a friend of mine asked her mom, she's like, Mom, do you know of what would you want to be called? And her mom said, Oh, we call ourselves teenagers.
Wow.
And I said, like, I love it. This is great. And so I think you do see the word in some church groups use it for like
Hmm.
their older adult groups and things like
Okay.
that. But that's
Yeah.
where it came from. It is not my original idea, but I do really like the word. I like the play on teenagers. I like the keen. Keen. Somebody who's keen is somebody who's sharp, smart. Um, and so I like that play on the words when we're trying to tell a new story about what it's
Hmm.
like to grow older.
Right. Wonderful. I love it. So, how long has the book been out, Corinne? And what is the response that you are getting from people? I know this would have been something that is kind of novel to them in terms of the publication. There's not many out there that I have seen. What
Yeah.
was the response like when the book came out?
So the spot response has been overwhelming in the sense that, well, if anybody really doesn't like it, they haven't told me. Let's put it that way. I'm sure there's, there may be a dissenter, but I think there is when people read it,
Yeah.
it is such a refreshing thing to feel like you can look forward to growing older. That it is such a positive, it is a positive book. It is, and not a Pollyanna sort of everything's going to be great, you don't have to worry about
Mm.
anything sort of positivity, a
Hmm.
realistic positivity about what it's like, with a lot of interviews with real people. And people are so ready for that in terms of let's change that story. They want to look forward to growing older, but our
Okay.
society is just so scary about it, right? We're so negative about it. And getting that sort of fresh perspective, that fresh take, makes people feel relieved, better, excited about it. And so it's been very positive. The book's been out just over a year now. It came out
Okay.
in June of last year.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Corinne. So, tell us, have you had the opportunity to do any book talks, live audiences, and you actually telling them about your personal story, how it impacted your life and led you to the place where you opened this company and eventually wrote the book? Have you had that experience thus far?
So I have done some local book events like that. I
Yes.
haven't done anything like a big nationwide tour or anything, which would be
Okay.
great. But
Okay.
I've done some local ones where I've had that experience, and that's where I've actually gotten the most feedback when we were talking about how have people responded to it. The enthusiasm at those small events is really rewarding for me because you get so many people who come up and say, if they are an older adult, this is my experience, and you're so right, this is so true, but it's not the story that gets told. Or I get people who say, this is really making me rethink what I need to do and how I'm thinking about my own aging, like thinking about catching yourself when you're having a negative aging
Yeah.
thought, like
Yeah.
I'm too old to do that, or, whatever it is. It really, I think, helps people reframe how they're thinking about their own process.
Yeah. I'm reminded of a movie called The Bucket List. I don't know if you're familiar with it. One of the leading actors was Morgan Freeman, and a couple other guys. I can't recall their exact names, but the thing about it is that they were quote unquote senior citizens, as cultural instances would show. And they had these things that they wanted to do all their lives, and they never had the opportunity. And when they were retired, and some of them were in these homes that took care of them or living by their families, they decided to take a trip because they found out that they had this commonality with regards to their bucket list. And they were doing all these crazy and wonderful things, traveling and going night clubbing and what have you. And I'm looking at that and thinking to myself, what if people decide that during the course of their lives, before they reach quote unquote senior citizen stages, that they actually do these things and not wait? Because, look, two things. Tomorrow is not promised, Corinne. We
Hmm.
don't know when our number is going to call. And secondly, why not do it now,
Yeah.
in the moment, in the present moment, where we can enjoy it, and it could be a memory that we are reflective of and we can share it with others.
Yeah.
And I say all that to ask you this. Do you see the publication Teenagers as being some sort of a handbook or a guide for people that they can actually work with and take positive action proactively even before the so called aging process begins?
Well, just remember, we're all in that aging process
Exactly.
already.
Exactly.
um, but in terms of it being a guide, it is in some ways, because I do give some practical, like, here are some things you need to do to
Right.
make your older years the best they can be.
Yes.
Um, that is actually something I'm continuing to work on in terms of developing like a workbook or a workshop to go along with
Ah,
it,
yes.
to be even more clear cut in terms of steps and processes and that sort of thing. But it definitely has that aspect to it of kind of thinking about, now, right? What can you be doing right now to not only live your best life right now, but as you age in the future? And you're right, we don't have any guarantee that, I don't have a guarantee that I'm going to make it into older adulthood, but I'm going to plan and try to be proactive like I'm going to make it, because if I do, I want it to be the best I could have possibly made it. And so
Yeah.
that's part of that is on me now, to be taking certain steps so that that happens. If I just
Right.
ignore it, then it's not likely to happen.
Yeah. Wonderful. So, what does the future look like for Corinne Auman and the company that you are currently running? Are there any other plans in the making? Maybe another publication or follow up to teenagers?
It's amazing. Having writing a book is kind of like having children, in the sense that, like, once you have one, the very next question somebody asks you is, well, when are you going to have another? And so when you write one book, and then immediately people say, oh, well, when are you going to write your second? And that's been very amusing to see how often that question comes up. I
Yeah.
don't have immediate plans to write another one, because, like I said, I'm trying to work on the workbook type, um, go along with this one, and workshop aspects. The other thing that's big on my agenda right now is talking with people like you on podcasts and doing public speaking on this topic, because I do think the way we change the story around aging is really one person at a time, because I have to get you to stop and think about, what are you saying to yourself when you look in the mirror, or what are you saying to yourself when you see other people of a certain age doing things, and why do you think that? Because it really does start, the culture feeds us the anti-aging message, but then we start to refeed it to ourselves over
Hmm.
and over again. We give
Yeah.
ourselves those same messages, um, in this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. And so, what do you want that message to be in your own head? And how do we change the pre-programming, if you will, that the culture has given you? So my goal at the moment is to get in front of as many people as I can, to try to help them kind of pause and think, why do I think that? Why do I have that in my head? I'll give you a quick anecdote.
Yeah.
My daughter,
Sure.
when she was 12, I took her to a Bruce Springsteen concert. And
Okay.
Bruce is up there, he's in his 70s. He's up there being a rock star, and he rips open his shirt towards the end of the show, and he's got six-pack abs. I mean, he's in his 70s, but he's in really good shape. And
Yeah.
we drive home afterwards, and my daughter says, he shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have ripped open his
Mm.
shirt. And I said, well,
Ah,
why? Why do you think that? And she said, well, because he's a dirty old man.
wow.
And I went, who told you that? And she's like, well, he just is, because he's an old man. So he shouldn't be ripping his shirt open. And what's really interesting to me about that is that by 12, society, our culture had taught her that old men were dirty old men,
Yeah.
because that's certainly not something I've said to her or her father
Mm-hmm.
has said to her.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the power of the culture. That
Yes.
is telling her that an old man is or growing old is a bad thing. You're going to be a dirty old man, no matter who you are, no matter
Yeah.
what your character is like.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to be this, and that's the kind of thing that is insidious, and that we have to stop and go, why do I think that? Where did that come from? And how can I change that story in my own head?
Yeah. Very interesting, Corinne. Thank you for sharing that personal story. That's a wonderful anecdote, and we appreciate that. So, in terms of your thought process, I am truly believing that it is based on some philosophy. I don't know if it's Socrates or Plato or Gandhi or the late Martin Luther King Jr. or Nelson Mandela. But share with us, Corinne, what is your basic philosophical thought of life in terms of maybe something that could be resonating with everybody, whether they are young, teenage, doesn't matter.
So I have a little thing here by my desk, and it's called toxic positivity.
Ah,
And it's, you will be fine. You have no choice.
mm-hmm.
Everything will turn out okay. You cannot stop it.
Yeah,
You will succeed. It is inevitable.
yes.
Better days are coming. It's too late now. So it's this sort of, like I said, toxic positivity. It's like everything's going to be fine. You can't make it. You can't change it.
Yes, I love that. I, I love that. I love that. I love that. So, what would be your final message to persons who are thinking, "Oh boy, this age thing, this culture, it's gonna be so tough. It's gonna be like an uphill climb. I can't do the things that I used to do anymore." And they're looking at all the negative aspects of it, and it's a struggle for them. What would you say to them in closing as a final parting message that would probably help them see things from a different angle?
That their thoughts are going to determine how that actually plays out. I actually listened to one of your other podcasts the other day, just in
Yes.
preparation, and I really loved. I don't remember his name, or I'd get it wrong, but he was talking about responsibility, and it's your ability to respond.
Matt
Um,
O'Neill.
there you go. And that I could not agree more, in the sense that how you respond to your aches and pains, or to your changing health, or to whatever is going on as we grow older, how you respond, how you think about it, how you frame it in your own mind, is going to determine how that plays out and what
Yeah.
the outcomes are going to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Wonderful. So we have just about 30 seconds left, and I put some information up there on the screen. And you can tell them, Corinne, how they can make contact with you for your company services, your professional services, and to get a copy of Keenagers as well.
Sure. Sure. So there's a one-stop shop, and it's that CorinneAuman.com. There you can learn more about me. You can also, there's a link to the book. All those things are available on that website. Our My business website is navigateseniorcare.com. But we're in North Carolina, central North Carolina, near Greensboro. And if you are in this area, we would love to help you. If you are somewhere else in the country, our professional organization is called aginglifecare.org. And that is somewhere where you can find a professional care manager anywhere in the country. You can search by zip code and find someone who does that same type of work in your local area.
Wonderful. So there you have it, folks. We have been in the presence of Corinne Auman, and we have looked at the story of aging. And she is the founder of this amazing company, and the company is called Choice Care Navigators. And she's also the author of Teenagers. And you heard where you can get that copy of that book. It's a one-stop shop, she says, for that first website there. So take note of it and make sure that you get a copy of that amazing book that can help so many people see the process of aging in a more positive and engaging light. Until next time, this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, together with my guest, Corinne Auman, saying so long, God bless, Godspeed, and remember, keep reading more books like Corinne's for enlightenment and knowledge. God bless, Shalom, Namaste. Bye for now, people. Here we go. Okay, great. So
out Andy's Personal Development Podcast, available today on your favorite podcast platform.
We have come to
Andy's
the end
Personal
of...
Development Podcast. Sensitive and
no, don't
engaging,
do that.
uplifting and inspiring to the